would not describe this year as a good year for tabletop role-playing games. There's been countless scandals, crises, and overall not a whole bunch to get super excited about. That being said, there were still some standout books that came out this year, supplements, adventures, remasters for TTRPGs in the sphere. So today, I'd like to talk about Polygon's list of the top 10 best books published for TTRPGs in 2023. They've picked some standout titles here, a little more D&D 5th edition than I would have liked to see, but overall, I think they've done a great job. And I'm really excited, looking forward to 2024, because there's a lot of good stuff coming, but that's for another video. Stick around for that one. I don't believe these are in any actual order of like 1 to 10. I think these are just the 10 best in Polygon's eyes, so I'll just be going over them in the order they're presented in the article, starting with Avatar: The Last Airbender, the role-playing game. I've had my eyes on this for quite a while now. I've seen the character sheet, it looks super cool. I've heard people talking about their experience with it and how streamlined it is, and that is definitely due in part to it being based on Powered by the Apocalypse. If you're unaware, Powered by the Apocalypse is a simple roll plus tags system, and Avatar has taken and added their own little twists and new mechanics to it. Avatar has a huge cult following, and being able to play in its setting using rules designed for that setting is a dream come true for a lot of people. I know Demiplane has added Avatar of the role-playing game to their list of supported games on their website, so it's getting some really good traction, and it's awesome to see it pop up on this list. Probably the most out of left field book on this list, but I think well deserving of its position, is Barkeep on the Borderlands. This book is freaking adorable, y'all. And it's a little bit of everything. It's an adventure, it's a rule supplement, it's a setting supplement. It's got so much jam-packed into not that massive of a book, so it's super approachable. Barkeep on the Borderlands brings you 20 setting-agnostic taverns that you can use in any of your games. On top of that, they add new rules for things like drinking and sobriety and how all of that works while drinking at a tavern. On top of that, it also comes with a full adventure that is a bar crawl through all 20 taverns included in the book, with an overarching story through all of it. I love things like this, just a clear passion project for somebody who loves the idea of taverns in games like D&D and whatnot, and wanting to expand it into its own thing. A full adventure that takes place almost solely in taverns. That's super creative, and I love it. Congrats, Barkeep on the Borderlands. Oh, that's weird. What's this doing on your list, Polygon? Is that Sinclair's Almanac from Sinclair's Library? No, it's not. I photoshopped that on there, but I do want to tell you about it. It's here, folks. Sinclair's Almanac 1.0 is released. Everything is done. The PDF is available and has been sent out to backers. If you bought it off the Sinclair's website, you can get it right off of there with your account. If you buy the Sinclair's Almanac, you get access to it this second. It's finished. All the archetypes, all the 2 classes, the ancestries, all the new magic items. There is so much in this book for Pathfinder 2e, and the D&D 5e conversion is right behind it. I cannot thank you guys enough for giving me and my team the chance to make this book a reality, so if you backed the Kickstarter way back in June of 22, then you can get it now. If you pre-ordered it on the website at any time, you can get it now. If you click the link in the description and go to the website and buy it, you can get it now, and you will not regret it. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the list. Fabula Ultima seems super interesting, and it's another take on something people have been trying to do for well over a decade, and that is translate JRPGs, you know, your party-based Final Fantasies, Bravely Defaults, Tales of, translate all of that into a pen and paper TTRPG. There have been some good attempts in the past, there have been some less good attempts in the past. This one, pretty cute, pretty solid. I like what they've done. Looking at the cover, it's exactly what you think it is. It is a massive TTRPG homage to your Final Fantasies of the NES, SNES, and PS1 eras especially. You're going to see a lot of familiar styles of abilities and equipment and whatnot, and the stats are really interesting in how they work with rolling. You see, the game is based around checks, much like any other TTRPG usually is. However, you're only going to use one of 4 types of dice: D6, 8, 10, and 12. And every time you make a check, you're going to be rolling 2 dice. The higher of the 2 dice rolls is the result for your check, and whatever happens, happens. Your characters have the stats of dexterity, insight, might, and willpower, and each of these are not assigned a score, but rather they're assigned a die size. So if something requires a dexterity and might check, you roll your dexterity die and your might die, and you roll the 2 of those, and the higher result is your final result. If it only calls for 1, like just might, you'll roll 2 dice of your might size. I just did this for 2. With the design of the book itself and how it portrays everything, and the general simplicity of its mechanics, I think it represents JRPGs really well. I imagine the characters start very simple with very little going on, and as you progress, they get more and more complex and complicated, much like the video games they're based on. Fabula Ultima, congrats on being on this list. I think it is super cool, and I love what you're doing. Obviously, there was going to be a Matthew Colville book on this list. If it's a year that starts with a 2, and Matthew Colville publishes a book, it's going to be on this list. And of course, Flea Mortals, with its insanely successful Kickstarter and great reception, deserves the place. Colville's entire game design team is some of the best in the industry, obviously giving a lot of hype to the mega successful MCDM RPG, which I will be talking about at length in the future. But Flea Mortals, great book. It's a bestiary. Do you need more monsters? Cool. How about monsters that do fancy things and villains and bosses with unique mechanics and actions that don't exist in D&D 5e already? If you're looking for a way to really spice up 5e's combat, and it can often use that spicing up, Flea Mortals is a great way to do it. There's a lot of books like it on the market from the past 7 or 8 years, but it's Matthew Colville. Flea Mortals is going to be one of the best options available. Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting is probably the single biggest bang for your buck book on this list. Try saying that 5 times fast. This is a 600-page monster filled with everything for D&D 5th edition. I'm talking classes, subclasses, familiars, equipment, items, that's different than equipment, I promise, spells, enemies, bosses, mechanics, new rules systems. I can't even really cover anything in particular just because there's so much I'd be leaving something important out. I guess a big thing they do tote is that there's new crafting systems using pieces dropped by the monsters in this book. They drop items which can be crafted into unique equipment for your characters to use. It's massive. If you're just looking for more content for your D&D 5e campaign, look no further than Heliana's. If you just want the most content for your dollar, look no further. And it looks awesome too. The artwork is incredible. Similar to Heliana's, but not nearly as bulky, is the Level Up Advanced 5th Edition's Dungeon Delver Guide. This is a bunch of new content specifically for D&D 5th Edition, however, it's specifically designed for their Advanced 5th Edition system, which is sort of like a sister system to 5e. It's all backwards compatible with normal 5th Edition, but it will have some unfamiliar terminology like the Adept and Martial classes. But if you're looking for content specifically to support massive dungeon crawls in your D&D 5th Edition campaign, the Dungeon Delver's Guide here is exactly what you're looking for. New monsters, spells, archetypes, backgrounds, whatever, everything designed around underground, deep dungeon crawling. So if you love their advanced 5th edition system, pick this one up to support it even further, or if you just play normal D&D 5e, there's still plenty of stuff in here for you to borrow and add to your campaign, even if you don't play their altered rule set. The Lord of the Rings role-playing game looks really interesting. It's gonna turn a lot of people off because the first thing it always says is that it's based on D&D 5th edition, which, 9 years later we're all a little bit tired of hearing, but it sounds like they've done a lot to make the system their own. First off, max level is now 10 instead of 20, leading into the entire game having a much reduced power scale to represent Lord of the Rings' low magic setting. Magic is rare and destructively powerful, and most people can't use it. Classes have been replaced by something called heroic callings, and they've added a lot of little subsystems for things like long rides on horseback. There's a lot here for D&D players to love, and it's just different enough that it's worth trying even if D&D 5e is not your favorite system. Old Gods of Appalachia is a super cool setting and uses an untapped system at its base. The Cypher system is growing in popularity every single day, it seems, and finally seeing a spin-off system use it as the base is really refreshing to see. Feels weird talking about Cypher when Ketup isn't here. Just like the Cypher system, Old Gods of Appalachia is a horror-based system mainly focused around an alternate universe 1920s Appalachian Trail and the surrounding towns, and it really leans into like cosmic horror. In a lot of ways, Old Gods of Appalachia feels like a modern take on old school Call of Cthulhu campaigns, but using a slightly altered mythos. They've got a lot of cool concepts like the Inner Dark, the Hollow Men, and a bunch of other creatures you can use to just murder your players in the Old Gods of Appalachia core rulebook. Congrats on getting on the list, y'all. Someday I'll play Cypher or Old Gods of Appalachia. I've never gotten around to really trying it, so I don't know the most about it, but again, I'm hearing more about it every day. Mostly from Ketup. Also popping up on this list is the Pathfinder 2e's remastered Player Core 1. This is just a great example of a solid core rulebook for a system, especially compared to the pre-remaster core rulebook. Everything's set up in a really intuitive way that's easy to understand, it's in a good order, it's very nice. It's extremely approachable for new players both to the system and TTRPGs as a whole, and it's all complemented by incredible artwork and graphic design. Obviously, I could talk about Pathfinder 2e for hours, maybe even years. If you want to hear more, you can watch any of the 500 videos I've made on the system. For now, I'm just going to say, congrats Pathfinder for getting on this list. And the final book on the list is interesting to me, both as a concept and as a business decision. Wizards of the Coast's Phandelver and Below the Shattered Obelisk. It feels interesting to release a remake of your original starter set adventure before you re-release your system in like 6 months. But that's what happened. Phandelver and Below was released this year and has gotten some pretty great reception. Like I said, it is a remake, rewrite, remaster of The Lost Mines of Phandelver. However, this carries players all the way to level 12, and it definitely feels a lot like a love letter to TTRPG and especially D&D fans. There's a lot of nods to different pieces of integral lore, especially if players have enjoyed Baldur's Gate 3. Yes, I'm looking at you. I know you've played it, because we all have. There's even direct connections to the D&D organized online play program, and that's super cool. Anything like that in an official product which can teach people that there is an organized play program is great. I will always vouch for organized play as a great way to experience the game or play it if you don't have enough people around you to play it. It's great. Everyone there is there to enjoy themselves and have a good time, and the fact that Wizards went out of their way to connect the organized play to this remake of their starter set, super cool. I just really don't get why they wouldn't release this, like, along with 5.5e. Just a weird decision. Regardless, good to see it on the list. And there you go. The 10 best TTRPG books of 2023. Do I agree with the whole list? No, of course not. I think there's plenty of better indie books and games that have been released this year that deserve to be on this list, but just didn't get the popularity or media coverage that they should have and deserve. But overall, it's a solid list. You know, I love seeing some other RPGs on there. Old Gods of Appalachia, Avatar, all of those are great. Like I said, there's a little bit too much 5e supplement stuff in there, but it's the titan of the genre, so I can't really blame Polygon for wanting to give it, a third of this list. Overall, I'm really stoked to see that Pathfinder 2e's remastered player core got on there. That's awesome. I think it super deserves it, and it shows that Paizo has not wasted their effort in remaking and remastering their system. But what do you think? Do y'all have any RPG books or systems or anything out there that you think should have been on this list? And is there anything here that you think should not have been on the list? I'm curious to hear from you. That's it from me. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.